Fully Cooley is what happens when you give a bunch of depressed animators a blank check, a headache, and a bass guitar, and tell them to make something cool. And then you just let them cook. And the result of that is one of the most unforgettable coming-of-age story in all of history. And the really cool part about that is, it told that story in just 6 episodes. 6. Nowadays, most shows aren't even done telling half a story in 6 episodes. And honestly, you would think it'd be worse for it, but the tight 6 episodes it had told its story, got to the point, and made you feel things. And honestly, I think it's better for it. So watching Fully Cooley or FLCL is like getting the talk from your parents. I've seen my demographic, y'all know the one I'm talking about. They sit you down, they can't make eye contact. They start saying words like changing and feelings, and you hate every second of it. Not because you don't already know what half this stuff is, maybe you figured it out on your own, maybe it's their delivery, these awkward metaphors, the painful silence, maybe it's just because they're the ones saying it. Regardless of whatever it is, something inside your brain kind of snaps. There is a boiling confusion rising in your chest, louder than anything they're saying. And regardless of what they're saying, you get it. No, you really get it. Growing up is weird. Life is weirder. But the more they talk, the less it helps. It's not clarity, it's pressure. And when it finally cracks, it all erupts. The frustration, the hormones, the screaming, the metaphorical and maybe literal robots busting out of your skull. And when the dust settles, you're not sure if you feel older, wiser, or if any of this actually mattered. That's Fully Cooley. That's FLCL. 6 episodes of pure, undiluted chaos that feels like adolescence, and it's not the PG version. No, unfortunately, you get the raw, confusing, hormonal overload that no one prepares you for. And by the end of this video, I'm going to show you how the world's worst manic pixie dream girl, a sour 12-year-old, a bass guitar, ends up telling you the weirdest, most honest story about growing up. Yes, there's brain trauma. Yes, there's a giant iron. And yes, it all kind of makes sense. Kind of. So let's rip this band-aid off together. So I'm Remy, and I just want to know, has anyone checked on Fully Cooley lately? And if not, let's. At the tail end of the 90s, Gainax was still riding the Evangelion high, but Evangelion didn't leave them inspired. It left them burnt out, broke, and buried under fan expectations. And somehow out of that mess came Fully Cooley, the OVA to end all OVAs. So quick reference, OVA stands for Original Video Animations. Think of those old direct-to-video Disney sequels, Little Mermaid 2, Atlantis 2, Milo's Return, Lion King 1.5. Same concept, but for anime. Now regarding Fully Cooley, this OVA wasn't going to be a Disney sequel. This wasn't a cash grab. This was Gainax trying to break the rules of anime itself to create something experimental, dynamic, unfiltered, but they needed help to pull it off. So they teamed up with Production IG. That's right, the Ghost in the Shell studio. And this tag team would later pave the way for FLCL Progressive and FLCL Alternative with Adult Swim, but for this round, it was Gainax's chaos and IG's polish. It was a high-risk, no-safety net kind of combination. And for something this crazy to work, it needed a director just as unhinged to lead the project. Enter the director, Kazuya Tsurumaki. And let me tell you right now, he wasn't a nobody. He was Hideki Anno's right-hand man on Evangelion. And if I may be so bold, I dare say it was his protege. But his approach to this was completely different than his mentors. Where Evangelion was therapy, FLCL was a punk rock concert. The thing was, Tsurumaki's only rule was explain nothing and make them feel everything. Eva left you spiraling in existential dread, and on the other side of the coin, Fully Cooley just punches you in the face with absurdity, and weirdly enough, it actually works. Because the chaos means something. The confusion is the point. Not everything needs to be a deep think piece about saving the world or facing your inner darkness. Sometimes it's just about the vibes and maybe a dirty joke or two. And don't get me wrong, I love overanalyzing media. I've got a whole YouTube channel about overanalyzing old cartoon shows and anime. But sometimes you just want to watch Sung Jin-woo or farm his enemies to death in Solo Leveling, or you just want to see Demon Slayer pretty VFXs during a fight, and that's fine. Sometimes it's just cool to see cool stuff, and Fully Cooley knew that. And it wasn't just about the energy, the tone of the show helped convey that also. Then there's also the art. The art in Fully Cooley looks like someone spilled 5 genres onto a canvas. Because, well, they did. And who was helming this kind of creative art style, the character designer himself, was Yoshiyuki Sadamoto. And yes, it's the same guy from Evangelion. Here's his artwork for Fully Cooley, and Eva, I'm a big fan of his art style. But where Eva was sleek and symbolic, FLCL is scribbly, explosive, and barely holding together. One moment, it's a parody of manga panels, the next, it's South Park, then it's Looney Tunes. And with all this visual noise, you're kind of lost, but then bam, you get a single gorgeous frame that makes you pause. It's not just flexing, it's feeling in a sense. It feels like every bit of animation reflects Naota's mental state. Yes, literally his brain is the main setting, we'll get there. But for now, let's talk about why there's only 6 episodes. That's not a flaw, it's its strength. 6 episodes means there's no filler, no exposition dumps, no 12 episode slow burns, just vibes, traumas, and transformations. And that means each episode has to do triple duty. Plot, check. Character development, check. Gigantic symbolic appliances, check. Weirdly enough, you'll watch a Vespa crash into a giant hand and wonder, is this puberty or is this a social commentary? Yes. Does it make sense? Meh. Do the adults know what's happening? Also meh. But it all starts inside of Naota's head. Naota is our 12-year-old but wants to be 30-year-old protagonist. He drinks sour drinks, acts bored, and pretends nothing amazes him. Enter Haruko, a Vespa-riding bass guitar swinging alien chaos gremlin. She literally opens his head. She's a personification of adult confusion, desire, manipulation, freedom. All that to say, she's a lot for a 12-year-old who's very impressionable. And then there's Mom Mimi. She's clingy, lost, desperate to seem grown up by mimicking adult habits. Everyone around Naota just seems extra exaggerated, but their emotions are genuine. Amuro is puberty suppression personified with eyebrows that make Rock Lee feel a bit jealous. Then you have Kamon, the dad, who is someone who probably shouldn't have been a parent, to be completely honest with you. He's also replaced by a robot at some point because why not? All these people orbit one thing, Naota's proverbial inner storm, and inside that storm, giant robots, trauma, and a whole lot of feelings. Okay, here's the plot. If you blink, you miss it. Naota lives in a boring town. His older brother moves to America. He develops abandonment issues. And as the saying goes, misery loves company, so Mamimi obviously develops abandonment issues also because she's the ex. But unlike normal exes who would avoid their ex-partner's families, she hangs around and is just kind of there. Well, at least she's more there than his dad, who is also just there, but less positively in a weird way. But none of that matters when Haruko comes crashing into his life, like literally crashes. Like she hits him with a guitar, straight up, and a robot starts coming out of his head. And that robot becomes one of his best friends, his pet, his guardian angel named Canty. And I gotta say, Canty is a sick design. I don't know what it is about like the bomber jacket on the robot. It's cool, it's so cool. And all of this takes place in a town where nothing happened. Except there's a giant factory that looks like an iron looming over the entire town, which is a metaphor, hooray! And we also find out what Haruko's doing. She's chasing Atomos, the energy pirate god of everything. Also another metaphor, hooray! People flirt, people explode, there's betrayal, giant weapons, slow motion drama, and all that eventually builds up to Naota screaming. And it's not a regular scream. This is the kind of scream that can only come from your soul. When you finally yell about everything, how you're feeling, how you're mad, how you're sad, how you're happy, everything. The guttural kind. And after that scream, Haruko leaves. No closure, no answer, just the emotional whiplash of growing up and wondering, was that love, growth, or just alien chaos? And just like that, you made it through all 6 episodes. And trust me, I left a lot of stuff out. So if you've never watched FLCL, fix that. And if you have, maybe rewatch it. You'll see something different every time. Because Fully Cooley isn't about understanding, it's about feeling. This show doesn't ask you to be smart. It doesn't ask you to come here with a PhD level intelligence to understand it. It asks you to come here, bear yourself whole, be open-minded, and enjoy the experience. Enjoy the moment you find yourself in, even if it's short, because it was one hell of a ride. And now that we have the story down, let's talk about the brain trauma I've been hinting at. So here's where it gets kinda literal. Naota's head, a gateway, like a literal gateway. A literal NO channel that opens across space and time. Also NO stands for Naota opening. Why? Anyway, this NO channel lets robots and god energy leak through Naota's feelings. The more bottled up he is, the bigger the outburst is when it finally explodes. And I do mean explodes. Every emotion milestone is sorta a kaiju fight. You like a girl, robot battle. You feel rejected, bigger robot. You realize your entire identity was based on someone else's expectations. Now you're dual wielding a bass guitar and absorbing Atomos. It's not subtle, it's symbolism. Puberty is pain, pain is power, and power means learning to scream when everything in your life has told you to stay quiet. And I can't stay quiet about the soundtrack. I know that's a weird transition, but just roll with me here. Let's talk about the music. The Pillows didn't just do the soundtrack, they are the soundtrack. It's like your average teen angst turned into a garage band, and then drop one perfect album that could be the soundtrack for your entire life, and then they never do it again. Well, at least until progressive and alternative, but that's not the video for this. The song Right on the Shooting Star, guitar heavy, grungy, catchy in a way that feels unearned until your emotions catch up to the sound. They didn't write for the anime. It felt like the anime was shaped around them. Every big scene feels like a music video because, well, it is. There's no generic orchestra swells, no emotional piano cue number 3, just a band saying, hey, here's what heartbreak and confusion sounds like. And they send it to the animators and just let them do what they do. And if I'm being so honest right now, I've been fighting the urge to just not use their music throughout the entirety of this video, especially Thank You My Twilight. I want to use that so bad at the end of this video, but copyrights already took the Full Metal Alchemist and Brotherhood video, so I'm going to show restraint, unlike certain pink-haired characters. Look, I understand the trope, manic pixie dream girl, everything you ever wanted, whatever. Haruko, yeah, I get it, she's cool, she's a pink icon of whatever 2003, but she is not a role model. She uses Naoto, manipulates him, weaponizes his insecurities. Also, she can chase down Adamus, and the moment he gets it, she swings on him. She's trying to end him. She's not there to fix him, she's there to use him. And the show doesn't pretend otherwise. This isn't a story about some magical girl saving some emotionally unavailable boy. This is a story about when you need to learn to stop idolizing people who only want to use you when you're useful. And that's not a fun story. It's brutal, but it's necessary. Because Haruko doesn't change, Naoto does. By the end of this, you realize you don't get what you want. And maybe that's the point. You're waiting for closure, for answers, for Naoto to get the girl, for Haruko to come back, for everything that makes sense. But you don't get that. You get a train leaving town, you get a boy who can finally speak his mind, you get change. It doesn't explain the robots, or the iron, or Adamus, not really. And maybe that's why it feels so real, because life doesn't wrap itself up with a nice clean bow after making a bunch of mess. Growing up is messy. Sometimes your first heartbreak doesn't come with an explanation, you just have to move on, and maybe later, maybe years later, you'll get it, but until then, you just don't. Fully Coolly doesn't end. It leaves you spiraling, dizzy, and maybe a little bit different. And you can say it's a lot of things, but I don't think it's bad writing. Quite the opposite. I think it's brilliant storytelling disguised as chaos. So yeah, it's got robots, Vespas, and metaphors about puberty and brain trauma. But it's also a show that lets you sit with confusion and show you that's a part of growing up. When you're growing up, you don't have the hindsight of an adult. Everything feels huge. Every crush, every argument, every weird phase you go through. It all feels like the end of the world when something goes wrong. If you mess this up, it's game over. Clearly, your life is done, logged out, don't come back in, you're done. And then it'll be something as simple as failing a test in high school. Because for you, the individual, the world was so small back then, like really small. Just your town, your school, your family, your thoughts. And Fully Coolly gets that. It doesn't explain it, but it sees you for that person. It sees you as a person who's seeing the small picture right now because you're young, you're going through changes, you're inexperienced. And it sees you trying to be more grown about something when you're a kid and you don't have to be. But then somewhere along the way, you will actually grow up and you'll look back on all the stuff that used to feel so important and then you laugh. Not because it didn't matter, because you survived it, you lived through it, your high school drama, your childhood confusion, uncertainty about the future. It all led here to this moment where you're still figuring it out, because that's the trick. You realize when you grow up that the grown-ups don't really know what they're doing either. It's one of those weird self-realization moments where you're like, man, when my parents were this age, they clearly didn't know what they were doing because I don't. And you realize that it's okay because we're still here and we're still doing whatever this is. And yeah, maybe we don't know how this ends, but maybe that's the point, because half of the fun of any great story, any real adventure, is not knowing the ending too soon. And nothing amazing happens here. Everything is ordinary. We're just ordinary. That's what Fully Coolly tells us. And yeah, it feels true sometimes, honestly. But that doesn't mean you have to take it at face value, because ordinary doesn't mean meaningless. Sometimes the most ordinary moments shape us the most. Awkward conversations, a silent bus ride home, swinging a bat for the first time, watching a dumb anime about a Vespa. Any moment can shape you as a person, as long as you take away something fun from it, as long as you can enjoy the moment, as long as you can grow and change from it. And sometimes to make that change, you have to have a giant robot bust out of your head to make the space. So hey, maybe get hit with a guitar sometime. I don't know, maybe it'll work for you. So I'm Remy. Thanks for letting me check up on Fully Coolly. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. And remember, you're always welcome here. Later.